talking, but we're going to move quite quickly on to asking you to do some work thinking about some issues. But we wanted just to highlight for you, again, this issue about language. And we started talking about language and Paulo Freire at the beginning. But one of the other ways in which language has an impact on the world is that it kind of shapes the way we think about things, sometimes in ways that we may not recognise. And one of the ways that you can think about that and look at that and examine it is to think back in history a little bit and to see how terminology changes. Sometimes you might come across or hear criticism of people who are politically correct. You've heard that term, oh, that's far too politically correct. Because all the time people are starting to think about how their language shapes views, okay? And an accusation about being politically correct is sometimes directed at people who try to be quite careful about the sort of terminology that they use. But one of the reasons for that is because of things like this. So you can see that the way in which language has changed to refer to particular groups of people since, for example, 1388, so that's going back quite a long way, isn't it? Talking about poor people and differentiating between deserving and undeserving poor. Okay, who do you think the undeserving poor would be nowadays?
Lower working class.
Yeah, again, although there's
another.
Yeah, that sometimes it's called. Some people call that the underclass, don't they? And again, that's a contested term. Not everybody agrees that that's a good term. But you can see how lots of these ideas that the language might change, but sometimes they still carry on filtering through. And I would say we still have this notion about the deserving and the undeserving poor. And at the moment, there's undeserving poor, and there's people who are deemed to be on benefits, and the skivers and strivers idea. By 1601, the introduction of the Elizabethan Poor Law, the impotent poor, and people described as old, blind, lame, lunatic. Okay, again, generally speaking, we don't refer to people as lunatics anymore unless we're being really rude, do we? Calling somebody a lunatic is not regarded as being something that would be used in a polite way. Again, later on, defectives, be insane. Okay, so all these words that are used to describe similar groups of people are helping to kind of shape our ideas about them as being different, as being other. 1889, you see the Egerton Commission referring to imbeciles and the feeble-minded. By 1944, the Education Act is describing special education, referring to students as handicapped, maladjusted, having speech defects. ESN, what was ESN? What did that stand for?
Educationally subnormal.
Yeah, educationally subnormal. Not regarded at the time as being problematic terms. But, I'm going to ask you, do you refer to any of your students nowadays as being educationally subnormal?
Call
Yeah.
them all lunatics.
And by 1978, we see the Warnock Report referring to children with learning difficulties and SEN, which is special educational needs. Yeah. Okay. And again, it might seem like a quite simple thing, where you might kind of want to dismiss it as part of this politically correct movement. But I would argue that referring to somebody as being an imbecile or feeble-minded or maladjusted will affect their idea about themselves, as well as affecting the way that we might approach them. So again, you might be able to think about examples in your own institution or in your own usage that have changed over the years. Okay, just wanted to show you this. That we're not going to look at this now, but the PowerPoint, which will be released at 5 o'clock tonight, includes a link to the Paulo Freire video. If you didn't get a chance to watch that and respond to it as part of the pre-day school activities. All right, so what we'd like to move on to now is to start you thinking about your own individual perspective. one of the things you were asked to do was to think about your own concept of identity and the sorts of things that are important to you, and to list those and rank them in an order. Did people manage to have a go at that as part of the pre-day school activities?
Yes.
Again, if you didn't, that's okay. You can say, no, I didn't do that. No, I didn't do that. So we're going to ask you very quickly either to get that one you've already prepared, and again, you might want to review that, or to quickly do it now. You know, very, very quick, then you don't have to think about it too much. So have a look at these. We've got nationality, gender, sexuality, age, ethnicity, and class. Okay? And we want you to rank those in the order in which they're most important to you. So, for example, you might think, well, actually, my nationality is really important to me. The fact that I'm Welsh or Scottish or, you know, from the Yorkshire region, you know, however you want to interpret nationality. So just have a very quick go at jotting those down, and then we're going to ask you to compare those